All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Dear Truth. I'm your host, DR. In this episode, I want to talk to you guys about mistakes. All right, the idea just popped into my head, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk about this because I feel this is something that's very important that, oh man, it's so overlooked. I get excited about, understanding how far I've come in my own life to be able to own up to the mistakes I've made, to be able to identify the mistakes I've made, to be able to identify when other people are making mistakes, and also I learned how to forgive. Oh man, which is the most important thing I think when it comes to mistakes. You got to learn how to forgive yourself, and you damn sure got to understand how to forgive others, because people will make mistakes. And you can't go throughout your life holding grudges, because if so, you'll end up, a hermit all by yourself if you don't forgive people for their mistakes, right? First thing you gotta understand that nobody's perfect. You're not perfect, and there's not a perfect person in this world, right? I don't care how pristine a person may be, prestige a person may be. I don't, how high up they may be in their level of in their career fields, and how successful they are in it. It doesn't even matter. That person will make a mistake. They're just as human as your next door neighbor. You know what I mean? Everybody's a human being. Everybody has their flaws, their quirks. Everybody's weird in some type of way. Everybody has something that's disgusting about them. Like human beings. That's what it is, 101. Now, don't get, a person's success tied up in their, what can I say, character, where you think that they can't make a mistake, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has a problem. Everybody's a little throwed off in some area, Even the people that got it all together, you know what I'm saying? It's something about them that if you knew every little dark nook and cranny in their brain, you'd be like, ew. So everybody makes mistakes. Once you understand that everybody makes mistakes, is capable of mistakes, you make mistakes, there's no such thing as perfection, it does not exist. And once you get that in your head, I promise you, life will be so much easier. Man, I can't express that enough. So I hope I drove that all the way home. I was really trying. I was giving it my best. So first thing you got to understand is that you've made mistakes in your life, right? And you got to think about the mistakes that you made, and you got to be honest. Oh, I forgot about that. You definitely got to be honest, because if you lying to yourself, you will accept the lies that other people tell you if you lie to yourself. But the moment you start being honest with yourself and also owning up to your mistakes, you'll take a lot less shit off people. I'm just being frank, You won't be able to accept that, because then you're doing yourself a disservice for the honesty that you bring to the table. And then all the times that you want to be a get over, and you want to lie about something, you want to cheat your way out of it because it's easier and you don't got to go through that. You know what I'm saying? So all the times that you stand up and, take ownership and take responsibility for the mistakes you make, the less likely you are to accept somebody else's mistake at your detriment. So that's very important. So the first thing you got to do, like I said, is be honest with yourself. I challenge you today. Take a look at your life. Go back at I don't care how dark and, scary and what's the word? Traumatizing. How, look in those, you got to look at yourself in those dark areas that you keep running from, and that's in the back of your mind when, little Billy or, little Shirley push you down and you were embarrassed in front of the classroom, and you hate her and you hate everybody that look like her, and you hate people who have certain traits. I don't care if your ex did you dirty, you know what I'm saying, and you hate her and you hate him, and it's bothering you, and every time you think about it, it turns your stomach and you want to throw up. I don't care if something happened to you as a child and it's very traumatizing, where you were abused or something like that. You got to look in all those dark areas. Now, you don't got to do it right now. I'm not forcing you. So, at your own time, because I understand that sometimes, it hurts, We've all been there. I've been embarrassed before. I try to put it all out in the music. My grandmother taught me how to own up to my stuff. As soon as I possibly can. It is what it is. That's what she always say. That way you're not hiding behind something and it shapes your character to not be proud of yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's very important to be very proud of yourself. I speak on that highly. I always want everyone to always accept themselves for who they are, all the flaws, every problem, every nook, every cranny of your soul. Learn to love and accept yourself, and don't ever let nobody outside of you determine your worth. That's very, very important. Right? All right, so once you've learned to solve your own problems and own up to your own mistakes, the second thing is to understand, when you come out of that dark hole of yourself and, learning to forgive yourself for mistakes, owning up to your mistakes, being brave enough to say you've made a mistake at any given time in your life, it may be a moment where, you've crossed a friend and, you ain't speaking to that friend. Like, it'll do you some good to call that friend and own up to your part. Don't blame them for their part. That's not your place. I promise you. Don't ever point a finger at somebody. Criticizing is the last thing you want to do. Whether they did it and you caught them red-handed, criticizing will lead you to a fight eventually. Because a lot of people ain't brave enough and big like you to own up to their mistakes. So if you call it out and they ain't big like that, they'll try to fight you. I put in a song, the one with the biggest ego is the most dangerous person. I didn't say it quite like that, but that's what I meant. Whoever got the, bigger pride and a bigger ego is dangerous, because they'll fight you about their pride and their ego, whether they're right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to put your ego and your pride aside to be able to own up to mistakes, because, it just clears your debt, your karmic debt. You know what I'm saying? It gets that burden off your shoulders, and you can move through life feeling like everything is all right, because I ain't holding on to no secrets. I ain't holding on to no problems. I freed myself of all my debt. So the next thing you got to do is be that patient and that kind and that caring and that courteous to forgive other people for their mistakes. Like, if I wasn't driving, I'd show you my cup. Like, I have a custom Stanley cup that has my company name on it. It's my favorite, water cup. And one of the guys at the job, while we renovating the shop, he basically knocked my cup down and broke my handle. And this is Stanleys aren't cheap. It's like a $50, $60 cup. You know what I'm saying? He broke my shit, bro. And he just picked it up, with the handle dangling. Is this supposed to be like this? Like, damn well don't no cup come with no dangling handle, bro. You did that. Okay, well, I dropped it. I'll pay for it. Of course, he gone on back to where he came from. I didn't have any funds to replace my cup, so I have a cup without a handle on it. I could have got mad and turned it. You motherfucker, you ain't give me my money for my cup. Da 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 da. Turned it into that, but it ain't worth it. It's just a cup, bro. I can get a million more cups someday. You know what I'm saying? I don't even need that cup. My goal is to be able to consume water. As long as I can get some water, I'm all right. It don't matter what cup it comes from. So I forgave him for his mistake. It wasn't even that big. Now, somebody else probably wouldn't be able to forgive him for a mistake. The fact that he was of a different race might have pissed you off. You feel like he did it on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Just the fact that he ain't give you your money back, you feel like he trying to play you. You mad as hell. You know what I'm saying? You causing a problem. You want to call him up, call him a liar. All of that. You see how much extra energy you give in that situation? Just me even explaining it is exhausting. Not worth it. So I don't care. Don't give nothing that much of your energy. Nothing is that important for you to stress yourself out about, especially outside objective things. A cup. Oh man. So I ask you to challenge yourself. In what areas are you holding on to little grudges over? Like, somebody ate your food out your refrigerator without asking you. You mad. You know what I'm saying? Somebody borrowed your car and then put gas back in it and left it on E. Somebody stole some money off your table. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? You missing that money. You wanted that. Let that go. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's very, close to you, your ex did something that she wasn't supposed to do, he wasn't supposed to do behind your back, and y'all broke up. Listen, man, they gave you opportunity to go get something better. That's how you gotta look at that. I promise you, it's always you got something. You don't put your all into another person like that, man. It's plenty fish out here in the world. You know what I'm saying? If you got somebody that's good, you know what I'm saying, hold on to them and love them. But if they ever cross you, understand that they missing out. You a champion, you know what I'm saying? You a king and a queen. They missing out on something great, and you finna upgrade, elevate yourself. Shoot, you only got one person to worry about. You about to 10x yourself, and you finna, move and get you something better than what you had, and they gonna regret that. So hold your head up. If your friends, ain't being good friends to you, it's okay, angst them off. Go elevate yourself. The time that y'all spend together is time you can be putting in yourself. So, that's a way of looking at things if in a detrimental state. Just giving you another perspective to view. It ain't easy. It hurts a little bit, but it ain't the end of the world. Pick your head up. So, but when it comes to other people, though, you just got to be really patient. You got to pull your energy back. I know what they did probably pissed you off, made you mad. You know what I'm saying? That was your favorite cup. You know what I mean? You love that cup. But it's just a cup. You can get another cup, Like one time, this car, so I call this the work car. You know what I mean? We got another vehicle, but this is the one I take to and from work, and my girl got the other car, right? So this car, I care about it, but I don't really care about it like I care about the other car. You know what I'm saying? That's sad to say, but I really appreciate this car. You understand what I'm saying? Man, some memories in here. This car, I drive this car cross country. So, you know what I'm saying? And it's still holding up. It's a great car. So, one day I'm pulling out on the road, from offside the road, in Cali. Parking is horrendous. So I'm on side of the road, and as I'm pulling out, I notice a car, not in the lane that I'm pulling into, but in the next lane over. So 2 lanes over from the lane I'm about to pull in. Well, this smart ass, I guess, tried to, get a little insurance about me or something like that. As I'm pulling out, he swerves over and hit the front of my car. Boom. So thank God, I promise you, I had just meditated that morning, and I said, God, whatever comes my way, I'm going to be at peace with it. Oh, man, when I tell you I had prepped for that moment, that's what I mean by like little God moments and miracles. Like I need to mention that a lot more, God moments. God moments are things like that. Like something that happens that was unforeseen, but perfect timing that you ain't good enough to write a script like that. So I call those God moments, I'll explain another one in the future of something that happened to me recently, but I want to let it play out. I don't want to talk the magic out. So basically, he hit my car. I pull back over, and immediately he hops out of his car and starts to blame me, talking about, you didn't see me, bro? You didn't see me? Oh, and I was on the phone with my shorty. I'm a different person these days. Because one, you hit my car, automatic no. I know you did it because I watched where you was, and I believe myself before I believe anything else. You got to prove me wrong. And I clearly saw it was free for me to pull out, and you was in the other lane. You swerved over and hit me because I didn't even get out this parking spot. So how'd you hit me? You had to, you know what I'm saying? So whatever. So the first thing, you coming over and then you blaming me on top of that, it's just grounds for me to I'm not like that no more. But thank God I had meditated and said, whatever comes my way, I'm going to be at peace with it. And this was a very good test. God will test you. The universe will test you. Life will test you. Life comes with tests. I need to make another video about that. Y'all remind me, please. But he comes out blaming me, and only thing I could do to keep my peace was just stare and be silent. So that's what I did. I stared and I was silent. And then he realized he was talking to himself, because I knew that he had hit me. Deep within his consciousness, whether he believe it or not, he knew he hit me. He knew he swerved over and hit me. So I didn't buy into arguing with him about what happened, because it's only he and I. He knows what happens. He can say what he want. He and I both know the truth. So I'm thinking and holding on to the truth without expressing the truth. Immediately after, he calms down, realizes I'm not going to engage with him in that manner, because I'm looking at him like he's, fucking crazy at this point. And he came to his senses, and then he's like, "You all right, bro?" Like, "Man, I'm sorry, I ain't see you." His story changed immediately. I was like, okay. At that moment, I knew I was winning. I conquered the situation, and righteousness won. You know what I mean? And so he talked his way out, because obviously he didn't have any insurance. And funny thing about it is, I didn't even have the energy to go through insurance to even mess with the little damages that happened to the car, because like I said, if it was another car, it would be different. This one, I'm a little neglectful. I'll be honest. So I didn't feel like going through the process. So wash my hands. I'm still a little pissed off about it, but point is, I didn't get into a fight. You know what I'm saying? That could have escalated to something. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Who knows how bad that could have gone? Typically that's how it would go. But I avoided all of that. That's in the past. I could go get another car right now if I wanted to, but why do that when you have a perfectly good paid off car? I don't have to put no money into it right now. It's not where I'm at right now. I'm building a whole enterprise right now. So we on some other different things right now. We got to be smart. So I said all that to say, forgiving people for their mistakes. You see how big of a mistake that was? Oh man. And he did it on purpose. So can you imagine? Some people make mistakes on purpose. That's crazy. But yeah, it happens. But long story short, I was able to overlook that. I found peace. Nothing escalated beyond that. And, I felt proud of myself, because I didn't allow him to steal my energy away. I went the rest of the day onward, and it was a great day that day. I was able to laugh about it. Now I got some stories to tell people about, hey, watch out, man. People will pull out on you, you know what I'm saying? So just be mindful of that. I know to look for that. That was a good lesson for me. I didn't know that people would do that, go to those extremes to really, scam you for insurance. Not to plant any seeds. That will not happen to anybody out there, I pray. I hope it doesn't. But yeah, I was a victim of that, and that happened. But, I was a good guy that day. I kept my peace, I kept my ground, and I gained something from that. I gained something from that, because typically I'm not that type of guy. Don't play with me like that. But I feel really good that I was able to do that. Even another time, just recently, when I was in Hawaii, I think I told a story about the guy trying to get me to help him pull some doors off because he was drunk or something. And, he called me a pussy. Because I wouldn't help him. Oh, man, I tell you, life will test you, bro. Yeah. But you know what I did? I laughed at him. He became a comical character. He looked very small to me. I definitely sized him up. You know what I'm saying? I definitely played it out in my head a little bit. But I didn't act on it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm so proud of myself for, the man I've become. And it brings me a great joy and a lot of peace in my life to be that guy, because now I'm able to identify, things from a distance and not be engaged in the things that I don't need to be engaged in, because I have a attitude problem or a short temper. No longer like that. So, I feel wiser, and I feel like I'm more in my Bruce Lee mentality these days. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to see a guy, defend himself out of fear. But it's another to see a man back down from a fight because he knows himself, and he you know what I'm saying? He's super centered with himself. I think that makes me feel fucking sexy. You know what I'm saying? I'm a sexy man when I'm like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I like that about myself. I like that I've become, more grounded, and I hope I'm not tested in the future. But if I am, I do pray that I'm, able to just center myself, understand, separate myself from that person, and, forgive them for their mistakes. One of my favorite quotes in the Bible is, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. I'm not big on religion, but that quote is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand that if you knew better, you do better. What I mean by knowing better, not just saying like, I was afraid, so I chose not to do something, type situation, because that'll eat you up in your pride. You never settle if you move out of response of fear, but moving out of a sense of understanding that this is the best outcome, and I choose the best outcome. That sense of self is outstanding. I think that's perfection in a nutcase. I mean, perfection in a nutshell. God damn. All right, so I'm close to my destination. Just to summarize this video, learn to identify your own mistakes and forgive yourself. Learn to identify when someone else is making a mistake, and find the power within yourself to forgive them, truly forgive them. Understand that they don't have the knowledge to see a higher perspective, and they're doing the best they can, and they're moving out of fear and ignorance. And you're wiser than that. You're stronger than that. You're a bigger person. You're more of an adult. You're more of a mature soul, and you take pride and precedence in that. And you don't rub it in their face. It's a private victory. It's for you and only you to enjoy. And it makes you stronger. I'm telling you, it just brings about this sense of, security within yourself. Just to be able to identify that and not even say anything. Try it with your children, or try it with your friends, try it with your spouse, try it with your parents, somebody that has an attitude. Step back and just observe them for the person that they are, and let them be. If somebody's doing something where you think that they should compliment you, you can't make someone compliment you. You can't make somebody like you. Let them be who they are, because if you try to force them to be something that they're not, they're pretending, and you're getting a fake version of that person. Let them be themselves. Let them be as real as they come, and see them for who they truly are, and then make your assessment whether that's worth it or not. All right, so I'm gonna leave you guys with that. I think that was a pretty decent video. I appreciate you for your time and attention. My new thing now is enjoy your life, because that's what life is all about. Enjoying that motherfucker, So I wish you peace. I wish you happiness. Be blessed. I'm your host, DR. This has been The Dear Truth, and I'll see you on the next episode. One.